We'll just wait a few minutes as people start to arrive. Welcome, welcome. We'll just give it a couple of minutes because I know it takes a little bit of time to sign on to Zoom. Seeing a few names pop up. Welcome, welcome. We'll just wait one more minute. All right, let me get us started here today. Welcome to everyone. Thanks so much for taking your lunch break to join us on our session on HomeConnect. My name is Simone Lilly. I'm the manager of community investment here with End Homelessness St. John's, and I'll be presenting today along with my colleague, Sherwin, and he's the landlord engagement lead for our program HomeConnect. I do want to start today by respectfully acknowledging the island of Newfoundland, where I am located and presenting from today as the ancestral unceded homelands of the Mi'kmaq and the Beothuk. Today, these lands are home to a diverse populations of Indigenous and other peoples. And I would like to respectfully acknowledge the diverse histories and cultures of the Mi'kmaq, Innu, Southern Inuit of this province. Just a bit of housekeeping before we get started. Your mics have been muted. There is a Q&A feature. So if you just look at the bottom of your screen, there's a Q&A feature there, and you can just click that icon and you'll be able to ask questions that way. And at the end of our presentation, we'll have some time to answer any questions you might have in the order that they are received. So feel free to pose them at any point in time throughout our presentation. So as I mentioned kind of in my intro, we work for an organization called End Homelessness St. John's. And essentially our organization exists to prevent as well as end homelessness. We are the community entity under Reaching Home, which is Canada's homelessness strategy. And as such, we are responsible for developing and leading and implementing our community's plan to end homelessness. The bottom line is that we are aiming to bring all of the stakeholders to the table to work together to ensure that the supply of housing related supports and resources is meeting the needs and demands of our most vulnerable populations. So before we get started, I mean, today we're going to be talking about our program HomeConnect, and we're going to get in the ins and outs, especially from a landlord perspective. But I just want to start by talking about the context in which HomeConnect came to be. Essentially, many of our vulnerable neighbors rely on the private market for housing. There's just simply insufficient amounts of social housing or supportive housing out there. So the rental market is where folks are turning to who have low incomes or also face certain barriers to obtaining housing. We know that there are landlords out there that are looking to connect with community agencies and to fill their units. And that community agencies are there able to support kind of housing arrangements for their clients, doing check-ins and support work. And there just sort of needs to be that kind of matchmaking facilitation function that happens. There's this common goal for landlords and tenants, which is just successful tenancies. So we see ourselves as kind of playing a role in terms of making that happen for folks, while recognizing that, you know, both players can't necessarily do that entirely on their own if we want to do successful tenancies. Our program's core purpose in HomeConnect is to create matches between the landlords, the community, and the tenants. And we're thinking about matches that aren't just for today. We're looking at how do we make housing arrangements for folks who are facing barriers to housing for the long term. So we're trying to create homes for individuals. We do want to mention that while our program took quite a bit of time to kind of build and design, we actually had to launch it earlier than it anticipated. We were kind of at that final stage and we launched it ahead of schedule because of the pandemic. I mean, it was a time when everyone needed to stay home as much as possible, which is difficult for folks who don't have a home. And so we implemented our program in April of 2020 ahead of schedule. And basically what that meant for us is that we had to do a lot of learning in that first year, and we had to adjust our programs, our processes, kind of our modeling and kind of levels of support and how we do things, and even our staffing. and what was needed. So there was a lot of learning by doing, but now we're in this really strong place where we have lots of lessons learned. We've really kind of evolved as a program. We have some stable tenancies and some great landlord partnerships. So on that note, that's what we really want to talk to you about today, is kind of the landlord partnerships themselves, kind of what that looks like to be involved in our program, and from a landlord perspective, what does HomeConnect even mean? So to do that, I'm going to pass it over to Sherwin, my colleague, who's our landlord engagement lead. And this is really his area of expertise.
Thanks, Mo. Thanks for joining us today. And we'll jump right in with the question that most people have. And that is, what is HomeConnect? So HomeConnect is a centralized housing inventory. So we maintain a database of all of the available rental units that we have underneath the program. And we can narrow down and filter those based on criteria and information that we have. And that allows us to be able to make better matches between the rental units and the clients that we serve, because we have that information all in one location. We also have a standardized process under HomeConnect, and that includes third-party rental unit inspections, which we complete. We have standard documentation such as rental agreements and consent forms. We have a standardized rental unit application process that tenants follow as well. So, a lot of the small landlords that we've spoken to said, that they don't really have, a formal application process. So under HomeConnect, we've tried to, set those standards the same across landlords and tenants so that, everyone understands what the process should be. A large part of the HomeConnect program for landlords is the support and benefits that come along with it. So this program was designed from the very beginning based on feedback from landlords, such as yourselves. And the program's in place to support successful tenancies. As Simone said, we're looking for long-term stable tenancies. We're not looking for, a week or two, short-term, things like that. So the program does have flexibility to address the kinds of issues that one might see in a longer-term tenancy. And that would include our landlord protection fund, which has a $10,000 claim limit and can cover things like rental arrears and property damage and those kinds of things. So when we look at the HomeConnect program and who the program was designed to help, obviously the program is beneficial for landlords because it can reduce vacancies and help ensure quick turnaround. In some cases, if a tenancy isn't working out and, we're able to help them move along somewhere else, we can usually fill that unit fairly quickly so that there's no loss in rental income. The screening of tenants is something that we handle on our end to a large part to ensure that the match between the tenant and the rental unit and the landlord is a good match, one that will support a stable tenancy in the long term. When things don't work out, we have the option of rehousing. So basically what that is, if the tenant or the landlord, they're having some issues with the tenancy, it's not really working out, rather than go down the path of a formal termination notice, we're usually able to step in a little early, help them find a more suitable place and just sort of move along without having to serve a notice or go through service different land or any of those usual processes. We help landlords in terms of the services that they receive when they're working with the community. One of the things that we've been told when we were doing the consultations on the program was that it's hard to know what organizations offer which services and to what degree the services are offered. So under HomeConnect, we're trying to make that easier for landlords so that regardless of which agency a client might be working with, the level of service received by the landlord would be the same. And part of that is by having a designated point of contact if you have any questions or if any problems arise, which would be me. So rather than having to try to figure out who to call or what their hours of work are or something, you could send me a message or give me a call, and we can help coordinate that or answer any questions that you might have. In terms of the community agencies that we work with, HomeConnect helps them by maintaining that centralized housing inventory. So rather than have to find landlords and search for all of this information on their own each time, we maintain that list and that inventory in our system. We provide support with documentation. So again, same as with the landlords, when an agency is working with HomeConnect, that process is the same regardless of which agency or who the client is. So the hope is that it becomes a familiar process and becomes easy to follow, and is just part of the day to day, instead of something we have to spend a lot of time thinking about. The rental unit inspections is also beneficial to community agencies, because we're able to go into these units before they're viewed by a tenant or before a tenant moves in, and make sure that they're safe and suitable, that there's no issues. The inspections also help landlords too, because we get a before and after sort of snapshot of what the rental unit looked like. So if there are problems with, say, property damage or something like that, we can usually resolve those fairly easily and fairly quickly, because we've seen the before and we know what the after looks like. So those are usually easy fixes. If problems arise, sometimes issues arise that are not serious enough for an eviction, but they're a little bit of a pain, and you'd like to get those sorted. So we're able to help with that as well. Any sort of an issue or problem or concern that a landlord has, we'd like to know that, and same with the agencies or the tenants themselves. And we can work, between us as a group to try to resolve those issues in support of a successful tenancy, which is what everyone wants. In terms of the tenants that we work with, HomeConnect helps them maintain stable long-term housing. So by ensuring that they have adequate supports, based on their need, and helping them develop the positive relationships with landlords, our goal is to help create independence and self-sufficiency. Our hope is that, through this program, tenants are able to learn the skills and knowledge, to be able to maintain their tenancy and resolve issues that come up sort of on their own. And we'll sort of talk about that a little bit towards the end of the slideshow. So what are the expectations of landlords that are working with HomeConnect? They're fairly simple if we want to put them in broad terms. Landlords need to be willing to work together to solve problems. That's sort of the name of the game with the HomeConnect program. And we're here to help, and the agencies that we work with are here to help. So if there's any sort of problem or concern, the sooner those are brought to our attention, the sooner we're able to get those taken care of. We expect landlords to use the HomeConnect documents and forms that we have as part of the standard process that we're trying to put in place. It helps keep things easy to understand for the tenants and the agencies that we work with, and the landlords as well, because regardless of who you're renting to or what agency they're working with, the steps are the same, the documents are the same. And the last thing, which isn't really an expectation of the HomeConnect program itself, but we do expect landlords that we're working with to follow the Residential Tenancies Act. And our program policies are designed to follow the Residential Tenancies Act as well, because again, part of the goal of HomeConnect is that when tenants move on from the program, that they're able to maintain a tenancy on their own. So by doing things in accordance with the law on all sides, that sets that tenant up a lot better once they've transitioned out of the program. When we look at a tenancy and what makes it successful, making a good fit is probably one of the number one things. By making sure that we make a good fit between the landlord and the tenant and the rental unit, we can set people up for success from the very beginning. As opposed to having someone move into a unit that we know is not likely to work out in the long term. A successful tenancy depends on understanding. I think most landlords that have been landlords for more than a few months know that problems and issues are going to come up at some point or another. Sometimes they're small, sometimes they're big, but those issues are going to come up. And they're going to come up under the HomeConnect program as well. The benefit to being in HomeConnect is that for landlords participating in our program, when those issues come up, we're here to help you sort those out, along with the agencies that we work with. Communication is key. If we don't know that there's a problem, we can't help resolve it. The feedback that we've received from landlords says that support and open communication is one of the big components to a successful tenancy that, when issues come up, they need to be able to get answers, maybe even not right away, but, that information needs to flow. So the program has been designed for open communication between, HomeConnect and the landlord and the agencies that we work with, so that we can all work as a team and work together to help the tenants under HomeConnect maintain their tenancies for the long term. And responsibility is also a key to a successful tenancy, and that would be responsibility of everyone involved. So in terms of, the goal of HomeConnect and successful tenancies, we're here to support our landlords and our agency partners. And, we expect, those partners to be in the game just as much as we are. So, communication and, responsibility are two of the important factors in the HomeConnect program that go a long way to maintaining successful tenancies. As long as people are doing what they should and people are communicating when things aren't really working out well, with the understanding that we mentioned earlier, usually it's not too much trouble to try to, resolve most of the issues that we would see. To help with that, we've built our staffing model to sort of separate the interests of landlords and the interests of tenants and agencies a little. So for issues relating to landlords and any questions or concerns that a landlord would have, that would fall under my role as landlord engagement lead. For any concerns or issues that a tenant or an agency would have, that would fall under my colleague Nicole as the tenancy support lead. So between the two of us, whenever an issue arises, the two of us would sit down and sort of look at the facts and try to figure out, a reasonable path forward to get those things sorted. If we can see eye to eye, which happens sometimes, Simone, who was speaking earlier, is the manager of community investment, and HomeConnect is one of the programs that falls under that portfolio. So Simone would be our neutral third party if Nicole and I don't see eye to eye. So, we would go to Simone, present our sides of the story, and, she would look at the situation and help us figure it out from there. Our goal with the HomeConnect program is not to create a program that people are dependent on forever. We want to, teach the skills and, pass along the knowledge to help tenants be able to transition eventually into the private market on their own. So after a year or two in HomeConnect, the hope would be that they would transition on to our HomeConnect Lite program, which is very similar, just maybe with a little less support, a little less frequent check-ins with agency staff and things like that, based on the fact that they would have had 1 to 2 years, in a tenancy that have been going successfully. So, sort of transitioning closer towards the private market would be the ultimate goal. So from a landlord point of view, one of the questions that we get asked a lot is, sort of what's the process for a landlord? If you don't know anything about the program and you're looking to be involved, what are those steps? So the first step would just be to get in touch with us and let us know that you're interested in participating in the program or learning a little bit more about it. We can definitely send off some information, answer any questions that you have. And then if you would like to participate or move forward with HomeConnect, we would just have you sign off on the landlord MOU. That's just sort of a broad agreement between us and the landlords that we work with that explain sort of what the program's about and what the expectations are. After that, you'd submit some information about your rental unit, such as the type of unit, location, rent deposit, that kind of thing, and we'd set up an inspection. Our rental unit inspections are very similar to a rental unit condition report that a lot of landlords use from Service Newfoundland. It's more of a visual inspection than like a traditional home inspection. So we're not crawling around underneath the basement and all of that stuff. We're just making sure that the place is safe. The windows are big enough. There's smoke detectors that work. There's no obvious leaks, those kinds of things. If we do find any of those things, which doesn't really happen a whole lot, usually we would just work with the landlord to resolve those and then just move forward. Once we're past the inspection and we're all good, the unit is listed in the HomeConnect database, which is where my colleague Nicole would pull information from to try to make those good fits between the tenants and the rental units that I mentioned earlier. If a tenant is identified as being a potential good fit for your rental unit, we would send you a message or be in touch and ask you to arrange a viewing for that client so that they can come and take a look at it. Once the client takes a look, if they're satisfied and they want to move forward and submit a formal application, we would send you a copy of that application as well. Because under HomeConnect, the landlord is the person that gets to make that final decision on who they rent to. So if the tenant is happy with the unit and they want to move forward, we would send you that application the same way anyone else would, and you would get to review that and make a decision. And once you accept the tenant through the HomeConnect program, the process is fairly similar to renting to anyone else. You would just sign the rental agreements and any other documents that would go along with that, and arrange for the keys to be turned over to the tenant. And off you go to the races. From there on, it's just like what we spoke about before, about the ongoing communication with HomeConnect and with the tenant if there's any concerns or issues like that. If there are concerns, we would really like to hear about them so that we can help you sort them out, because part of our job is to make renting hopefully a little less frustrating for you, so we can help you sort out those issues instead of you trying to sort them out on your own. That's better for everyone. So I have a couple questions here that we get asked a lot. So I figured we would just cover them in this presentation. As I just mentioned a little while ago, it's the landlord that gets to choose the tenant. We're not a placement agency. We don't say who goes where. We just try to make a good match and then recommend that tenant to the landlord. So the landlord gets the ultimate yes or no on all of the applications. I will note, if a landlord does decline an application, we usually will follow up for a little bit more information. And it's not to yell at you or make you feel bad. It's just to find out a little more about why the application was declined, because then we can use that information to help make a better match the next time around, so that we can learn from those situations and work towards that goal of making the best matches that we can. Who pays rent and how is it paid? That's probably number one. I just put it as number two, so it didn't seem about the rent. The rent would be paid normally through a combination of funders, depending on who the client is working with. So some of the ones that we see frequently would be income support, Eastern Health, or Newfoundland Labrador Housing. In some cases, tenants may pay a portion of the rent on their own. In most cases, with income support or Eastern Health or any of those programs and services, rent would be paid directly to the landlord by direct deposit, which most landlords actually prefer in those cases, because it makes sure that rent is paid on time each month, and that there's no issue getting the rent. The last question I have here for now is, what other things are Homeless in St. John's doing to help support successful tenancies? And that's an area where we're always putting more thought into, what we can do to help, the landlords, the agencies, and the tenants that we work with. So one of the things that we've done recently for tenants is we've put together a welcome basket, is what we're calling it. So it's a cleaning bucket, and that's full of cleaning supplies and a mop and a broom, and a lot of the things that are kind of really necessary when you move into a new place, but a lot of people don't have or may not think to have on hand when they first moved in, along with a copy of the City of St. John's Your Rights and Responsibilities as a Tenant Guide, which is a plain language guide to the rights and responsibilities of a tenant. So we've been our hope is that those will help set tenants off on the right foot. I know it's not going to solve all of the problems, but it does start things off in a good place when you're able to maintain your rental unit right from the beginning. On the other end of things, for the tenants, the landlords that we work with, we've got a couple things in mind that we're hoping to roll out over the next few months. So one of those is mental health first aid training, and the other one is Indigenous cultural training. And those are things that we're hoping to roll out this fall. So we'll be in touch with some of our landlords soon to discuss the details of those a little more. But we always, look at ways that we can help make a tenancy successful in the long run. So things like mental health, first aid training, and cultural training, and welcome baskets, and those kinds of things are things that we are able to do. We're also interested in hearing, from landlords, what we can do to help make your job easier. Is there training that we could offer? Is there a presentation that we could do? Is there information that we could make available that would, help you, help you as a landlord and help you with your tenancies? So we're always open to feedback on that. So you can get in touch with us anytime if you have any thoughts or ideas about ways that we can help. If you want to get in touch with us, or if you want more information, you can find that on our website at homeconnect.wecanended.com, or you can send us an email at homeconnect@wecanended.com. And you can find End Homelessness St. John's online on Twitter and Facebook, or our website at wecanended.com. And at this point, I'll leave it for questions. So if anyone has any questions or things that they want to ask, or concerns or anything like that, feel free.
So Sherwin, there's a question there just asking what kind of units that we're looking to rent. So what types of units are we?
Good question. Probably should have been in the frequently asked questions. Ideally, the units that we find higher demand are the bed sitters, the bachelor units, and the one bedrooms. Seems like those ones are the ones that we're asked for the most, and usually because of an affordability piece. 2-bedroom units can work sometimes. Again, it depends on the rent. Once we start getting above 2 bedrooms, the units become difficult to fill under HomeConnect. Generally because of an affordability piece, but also because most of our clients are single individuals. So a 3 or 4 bedroom house wouldn't really be suitable in that case, even if it was affordable. So what some landlords have been doing, we've got 2 or 3 over the past year, they've converted those larger units into bed sitters. And then we are able to actually use those because they're rented out as individual rooms and are a lot more affordable for the clients that we work with. In terms of the hard to find units, so things like a fully accessible unit, if it's a larger unit, but it's fully accessible or something like that, we can always take a look at it on a case-by-case basis, just because those units are so hard to find. So if there's anyone out there that say has a 3-bedroom accessible unit, I would rather have a conversation with them to see if that was a unit that we could take under HomeConnect, and then assume that it was too big for our needs, because accessible units are probably the hardest type of unit to find.
Sherwin, there's another question here. Who is responsible for completing the inspection?
The inspections are completed by me. So that would be part of the sort of landlord onboarding process, I guess. So once a landlord reaches out to us with an available unit, if they've already gone through sort of the MOU and all of that stuff, then we would just go out and do an inspection that way. We do the same inspection on all of the units. So we've got an app and all of that stuff that makes that pretty quick.
Excellent. Any last questions, folks, before we sign off? A couple of minutes left. Going once, going twice. All right. Well, Sherwin, maybe just put back. Oh, I have another question here. As a landlord, do I have to relinquish control over the specific details on my unit?
No. I think I know what they're asking. Landlords still get to set the rules. So we have some landlords that say no pets. We've got some that say pets are fine. We've got some that say cats only. We've got some that say smoking inside is fine, some that say smoking has to be done outside, and some that say smoking is not allowed on the property at all. So when it comes to I guess I would call them the usual rules that landlords set for their rentals, that's still something that we can work with under HomeConnect. And one of the things that we would use to help make that match. So, if we have somebody that has a cat, we're not gonna, submit an application to a rental unit that's not pet friendly. So we can work with most of those rules, as long as those, because as we mentioned earlier in this presentation, we do expect landlords to follow the Residential Tenancies Act. So as long as a rule is, compliant with the law and it's not something illegal, that's fine. We've got no problem working with landlords on that stuff.
Thanks, Sherwin. Yeah, a big part of what we're doing is trying to look at the landlord's needs and wants and really look at who's looking for housing and make that good match kind of from both perspectives. So it's not something that's that we take lightly. We really want to get to know our landlords, and anyone signed on to our program hears from Sherwin quite often. How many landlords do you work with currently? So Sherwin, you have that up-to-date stat on right now. Over the course since April 20th, 2020, when we first launched, we have worked with 30 landlords to 35 landlords altogether. And currently, I think we are renting through, I want to say 16, Sherwin, but I could be a bit off.
It's around there. I can't pull it up now over on here, but yeah, it's around there, around 16 or 18. Something like that.
And those are big landlords, small landlords, someone who might have one unit or multi-units. Does this cost me anything to join the program?
No. Also, I should add that one to the frequently asked questions. Thanks. No, that's one of the questions that we get asked a lot. It's a common misconception, I think, that HomeConnect is kind of like an insurance program that, you pay into it so much a month. Or that it's like a property management company where, we would get a certain percentage of the rental income. We're not like that at all. Our funding, comes from government, and, there's no cost for landlords to participate. We're here to try to help landlords, save money and, make life easier in the rental market. So there's no cost to join. That's probably one of the best benefits of the program, is that you get all of this extra sort of protection and benefit for free.
Excellent. Great questions, folks. I think, so Sherwin, if you can just go back one slide so they can see our contact information. So I'll just give you a second to kind of write down that contact information. As we said before, if you want kind of even a meeting with us, you want to chat more in detail, a phone call, meeting, an email, back and forth, just reach out to us and we'd be happy to connect, happy to kind of go through some of the specifics of our program. Or if you don't have any units right now, but you'd be interested in the future, also reach out and we can get you kind of onboarded to the program and connect with you in the future. Or if you know other landlords who this might be benefit to, feel free to also send them our way. We want to thank everyone for taking the time on your lunch break to listen to us talk about our program. And we hope you have a great day. Take care.